Welcome back to the South Florida Recruiting Report. Marcus Benjamin here representing for On Three Rivals, South Florida Recruiting Reporter. And we are now officially 3 weeks away from signing day. I know, I can't believe it. The football season is just flying by. Playoffs in the state of Florida and around the country will be starting this week. But Miami has really made some noise in recruiting this week, flipping, I want to say, 6 recruits this week or within the past week or so. It's been an absolutely amazing run. And then Florida and Florida State's classes are still kind of up in jeopardy with, of course, the firing of Billy Napier and also Mike Norvell possibly making the exits depending on how they finish their season. To discuss it all, I've got Brian Smith, who's the host of the Portal podcast on the Locked On Network, to discuss recruiting in the state of Florida. Thanks for joining me today, Brian.
Appreciate it, sir. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, like I just mentioned here in the intro, Miami's been on a tear, a heater, a
Yeah.
run, whatever you want to call it here in recruiting.
All the above.
Yeah, it doesn't really get any better than what they've been doing on the recruiting trail as of late. They've added talents like Keyshawn Stansell. They've added talents, most recently Logan Nagel, flipping him from Pitt. Isaac Shukra, who they flipped from Penn State. It's just been an absolutely amazing run. D'Anthony Lafayette, I have to also mention as well. He wasn't a direct flip. He decommitted, but then committed to Miami the next day. I mean, I don't know what to say about this run. Most of these recruits I was aware of, and most of them did visit for game day visits, as you know, D'Anthony Lafayette, although he didn't want to let that be known. And also recently Paris Milan also visited, as well as Shukra and Nagel. And Miami was able to woo them away from their committed school and commit to the U. What can you say about this run, Brian?
I'm not surprised for 3 reasons. Number one, staff at Miami. I mean, you can comment on this if you want, Marcus, but top 5 nationally in terms of recruiting effort. We hear people that are fans say all the time, well, it's just, you just buy players now. No. That's not how this works. Even with Miami's NIL money, which is crazy, if you don't have good relationships, you do not get the elite players because the parents won't let it happen. First off, they want to know the staff. They want to know that their kid, all that stuff. So that's A. B, it's Miami. I mean, it's not hard to sell. Like, you live in South Florida, you're a South Florida guy, and I've been down there enough. It's not real hard to sell it. And then finally, just kind of looking at what they do, it's consistency.
Yeah.
They're not just, are they good recruiters? They look at film in the senior year. Like some of these kids, like the Milan kid. Were they after him when you and I would see each other in spring events? Probably not. But they're consistent. Watching film, who do they want? That stuff changes. The kid they just flipped from Pitt, was he a target in March? Probably not.
Yeah.
They're consistent. So I'm not surprised by it. And here's the most important stat out of all this for the whole class. They have 29 commitments, Marcus. 13 are either offensive or defensive line. Where did big time games, where are they usually won at, Marcus?
I heard they were won in the trenches.
That's a rumor. For about 125 years, that's been a rumor. And it's been correct the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely like what Miami has done in the trenches. A lot of top guys that I consider to be top level type of guys, or have the potential to be top level guys on the college level. But they've done well on the skill positions as well. They did get Milan Paris, flipped him from Iowa State as well. I do like what Miami has done with bringing him in, and also James Dunnigan, flipped him from Kansas, safety from the Midwest. So Miami's building strongly in the trenches, which I think all teams should do these days, especially with the transfer portal. I think a lot of teams can just afford not to get real high level skill guys in recruiting because they're going to be available in the portal. So I think what you want to develop is the trenches. You want to develop these big, massive guys on the line to really kind of establish either your running game, protect your quarterback, put pressure on the cornerback, and stop the running game, which I also heard is a rumor of how you win games.
Miami does a good job of that right now, and they build it primarily through high school ranks, and then they supplement it with like Messidor. They did the really smart tweaking with how they built their D line. I think it's as you could write an encyclopedia on how to do it. Like literally, I'm obviously not a Miami guy, but I'll give props when it's due. And Miami was very smart. They had a great blend of just a few guys from the portal that they knew were good, but they were mostly homegrown guys like Moten. They were patient with him. He didn't hit right away, but they developed him. Now he's a good football player, and he plays a
Yeah.
lot of reps for the U. And of course, Bain. That's self-explanatory. So really nice job.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of all these guys, though, is there any surprises to you, or are you just kind of really impressed with any of these guys that Miami got, either within this week or in the entire class, that you kind of feel that will make an immediate impact here?
There are two. I'm partial to both because I've seen them both play. One's in state, one's out of state. I'll start
Okay.
with the in-state kid, and I know it's somebody you know better than I. I've interviewed him once, like extensively, and that's Jordan Campbell. You probably interviewed him 30 times.
Yeah,
For those that don't
something like
know, yeah, I mean, if you're going to interview somebody and take the Florida part out of it, and just from an interviewer's perspective, what you want somebody giving full answers, not a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Jordan,
yeah,
and I say this wholeheartedly, this is the kind of kid that can be a CEO of a company someday, but he's also a middle linebacker. Those two things, Marcus, do not generally coincide. He is a very intelligent kid. He's very concise,
he is
deductive
very much
logic
so.
when he thinks about stuff. And those are the kinds of guys you need at linebacker today because, like with RPO, I've had a coach tell me before, hey, I basically need my guy to be in two spots at once with RPO. And I'm like, physics haven't changed. That's not possible. So you still need to complement however you can and do the best you can. And that's why linebacker is such a hard spot. He'll figure it out. I'm going to go ahead and predict right now. There will be a game at some point in 26 where he makes a play on special teams or as a third down nickel linebacker does something to help Miami win a game. He will be one of the smartest players that anybody sees anytime soon at Miami. He will be a multi-year starter because of what he can do above the shoulders as much as what he can do with his brawn. And he is. By the way, the physique, he didn't get cheated there either. He's put together like a linebacker should be. He reminds me of like that early 2000s linebackers they have in terms of the way he's built. Stocky, can run, change direction, but he's just full of power. So yeah, he's that guy. Out of state, I'm going to go Vance Spafford.
Okay.
Um, when I saw him a year and a half ago at Under Armour Future 50, and I'd already seen him a few times playing for California Power, and he just roasted guys that were high D1 corners.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I was told before the tournament this little white guy was good, but I need to see it. And he smoked these guys. But then we went to Under Armour Future 50, and he ran a 4.35 electronic time. And I
Mm,
filmed it. Like he was coming right at me.
mm,
There's no arguing with the young man's speed, and his ability to run routes is legit. I know they got Malachi at slot, so I'm curious how they'll do it. There's no way that Spafford doesn't play in some capacity next year, even if he's your punt returner. He is dynamic, and he's another kid that loves it. He's much like Jordan Campbell, very acute when it comes to figuring out stuff. He'll play somehow, some way next year for Miami. But again, because him and Malachi are both traditionally slots, maybe they play more twins with their offense and go four wide with two slots. That would not be much fun to play against, by the way. And it's
mm.
more of a old school Andre Ware Houston run and shoot occasionally. I think Miami fans would like that. But he has so much ability with his speed, and he's another kid that just loves football. He's going to contribute to the U very early.
Yeah, Vance Bafford, another player who was at the Miami game last weekend, visiting, second time that he visited the U for a game day. So he seems like he is indeed fully locked in with the Hurricanes, and I agree with you. I think that would be a deadly combination to see both Vance Spafford and Malachi Tony. That's pick your poison right there, and
Yes.
and I think Samarian Wingo and Milan Paris have a chance to make some noise too in year one. I definitely like Samarian Wingo. I just feel like he's really going to show out in these playoffs for St. Augustine. I think he has a chance to really kind of make an impact in year one. That would be for me. I guess my in-state guy. As far as the out of state guy, it's kind of easy to just say Jackson Cantwell, just because he's going to be essentially the replacement for Francis Mauanoa. I could see him probably catching passes like Mauanoa did last week for a touchdown. He's just that athletic and that big. I mean, that would be pretty scary to see him with the football in his hands charging at you. Saw him in person a couple of weeks ago at a Miami game, the Stanford game in particular, and he's just a scary sight. Um, and I think he's just going to make an immediate impact for the Hurricanes. Let's move on to the other two schools here in Florida, Florida and Florida State. Florida class still pretty much in jeopardy here just because
Oh,
Billy Napier has been fired. I think the last time that we spoke on this podcast, he was still
he was
um,
employed. He was
employee
employed.
of the University of Florida. I think it was maybe the next week that he did get fired, or maybe the week afterwards. But the class has stayed intact though so far, Brian. Like no one has decommitted, no one has flipped. A lot of players are flirting though. A lot of players are flirting out there. Carson Baker, Caden Hall, CJ Brona, all of these guys are expected to visit different schools. Brona to Ohio State. Caden Hall, I believe, is going to visit Ole Miss, possibly Georgia Tech. So Carson Baker, I believe, is going to visit Georgia Tech as well. Uh, what's your take on this Florida class? Does it stay intact? Who do you expect to flip out of this?
There's a very big question I have about this. It's a legal one that goes right into this, and I'm sure you've heard about this as well. This is very touchy. I'm not going to specifically name players, but the way recruiting works now, I'll use LSU as an example because they're in the same boat as Florida. They just fired their coach a little later. The collective for LSU, for the in-state kids, now LSU's got an insane amount of talent per capita to pick. I mean, it's gross.
Sure.
Well, one of the reasons the in-state kids for LSU are not flipping is the following. Their NIL deals already started.
Hmm.
That's very awkward because
Yeah.
what if a kid is like, screw you, I don't want, you get into legal battles. And if you're LSU, and again, you can apply this to Florida, do you want to fight that because it doesn't look good? So I've heard Florida is in the same kind of situation.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't want to go down the lawyer path. You and I are not lawyers. We don't enjoy that stuff.
Right.
That's one of the reasons Florida has some of these kids still committed, in my opinion, because I'd be shocked if you didn't tell me the same. I've heard that Billy was incredibly popular with his current roster and with recruits. Like he's a very good recruiter,
Yeah.
very good. I think the reason, though, that a lot of them haven't jumped ship is because of the NIL stuff. I'm curious which school it will be that ends up in a battle with the kid that we're going to find out about it, whether they try to keep it quiet or not. But that's why. So some of these kids might explore and visit, but it gets into legal stuff. If you've already taken money, which let's be honest, fair or not, legal or not, most of them have. It's going to get touchy. So if all of them stick, I'm telling you right now, it's NIL. But like Caden Hall in particular, that's a kid who grew up rooting for Florida State, and he's from Pensacola. But Florida State might be a bigger dumpster fire than Florida by the end of the season. Right now, Florida's bigger. They just got smoked by Kentucky.
Right.
That's horrific. But where does he go? Like, you can't tell me he wants to go to Florida. I'm sorry. They just got curb stomped 38-7 by the Wildcats. This isn't basketball. This is football. So I'm shocked. But then again, it goes back to that NIL. So unless they pivot here and they jump off the screen and go away from, I think it would be dumb to do this, but if they're going to go after Kiffin, they're going to have to drag that sucker into January. Because Kiffin, December at the earliest, his team is going to be done because they're going to the playoff. All of that at Florida makes it very complex. And even like J. Raylan McCoy, a kid I know out of Mississippi, he's from Tupelo, highly coveted. Texas wanted him, Ole Miss wanted him, LSU wanted him. He committed to Florida. He just likes UF. So maybe there are some kids, but overall, you have that many guys pledged that are elite. Some of them are going to decommit. So I was like you. I'm like, what's going on? And I made a few phone calls, etc. NIL is part of this, and I think that's a trend we're going to see. And in some ways, it's kind of good for you and I.
Yeah,
It's less we got to chase down. I'll just throw that out for our own benefit. But
sure.
if a few still flip, I'm curious what the backstory is because maybe some of them didn't sign NIL deals or get any cash yet, and it makes it less complex. But what do you think? Two or three end up flipping in some way, shape, or form, Mark? I mean, it can't be zero. There's no way. So how many do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking three at least.
That's where I'm
I'm starting to feel that way about CJ Brono. We're watching his highlights here. He's going to
at. He
take a
didn't play.
visit to Ohio State. It's hard to to say no to the Ohio State Buckeyes, who are the defending national champions and the number one team in the nation. Continue to produce high level defensive backs year after year. I think they're going to do everything they can to kind of flip him from Florida. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. CJ Hester, I think, is a kid to kind of watch here as well. I think Iowa is making a
Yeah.
hard push here, and some other schools as well, UCF as well. But it just seems like it depends on the staff, like naturally, like these coaches that are recruiting these kids, if they end up staying where they are, then I could see them staying. But if they are departing, then I think so goes the recruit that's recruiting them. So I know defensive backs coach at Florida, Wilson's still there, but you never know with the new staff or the likely once a new head coach comes in there, he's going to want to bring in his guys. Say it if it is Lane Kiffin, he's probably going to bring in a ton of different coaches that he wants on his staff. And that's when I think officially you'll see these kids start to flip and decommit or whatnot. Maybe some of these kids go past this early signing period and wait for the traditional one in February to ultimately decide where they sign. But a lot of these kids do want to start in January uh, because it gives them a better chance to start right away or get playing time in the upcoming fall. I think players who do not play in the spring are generally behind the eight ball when it comes to early playing time. And a lot of these kids, of course, want to play right away. So time is of the essence. Like I said, it's 3 weeks away. And yeah, I do think, if I had to bet on one kid flipping, I would say it's CJ Brona just because of the uncertainty in Gainesville. What you bring up a very good point though, Brian, about the whole NIL stuff because now I'm thinking about it almost like with these coaches, how these coaches are they have a contract and they're bought out. I mean, Brian Kelly is in a battle right now with
Oh,
the money that he's owed, so to speak. So it seems as if Florida has an indeed an NIL that's already paying CJ Brown. I'm not saying he is. I'm just throwing it out there. Then to him, is it going to be a situation like that where schools will have to pay for what they would have received at their previous school? Is that the situation? Is that the path we're going down here, Brian?
like I wonder this would be the wrong move, but internally, I bet the following will come up. There's going to be a kid that 2 days before signing that's a dude. I'm not saying it's UF. I'm not saying it's LSU. Whatever. Maybe it's Florida State. That's a dude that's very important to that program because of the coaching change, or they haven't named a coach. 2 days from signing day, it'll be this year, next year, whatever. He's already taken money to go to school X. Again, I'm not saying it's UF, and he's going to
Right.
call and say, "I'm flipping," and especially like if it's a UF to Miami, like if it's a rival kind of thing, that school is going to demand the money back, and it's going to get touchy.
Right.
So But we both know because we're directly in this. If you do that, fair or not, and legally it is. But if you do that, what bridges are you going to burn? Trainers, 7-on-7 coaches, high school coaches in the area that kid's from. The
Yeah.
recruits have all the leverage. Now, legally, they may not, but you screw yourself by getting the money back. How many big boosters are going to accept because they're used to always hearing yes? How many big boosters are going to accept that? It's going to put some schools in tough spots with their boosters because they're going to be like, I don't want to give this money until the kid is signed. But they're going to be like, if we give the kid a little bit of money now, he will commit. It's a two-way
Yeah.
street. Like it is hard. Every school is in the same boat, by the way. There's no one. But man, they hold your tongue
It
because
gets
if
it
you
gets
love with that stuff, it'll get ugly. Especially like that happened with the South Florida kid. Oh God.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it sounds like it was kind of the case here with DeAnthony Lafayette, and I'm just saying like speculation here, but when a kid now shuts down their recruitment, right? He says like, yeah, my recruitment is shut down, which DeAnthony Lafayette did say. He said his recruitment was shut down with LSU. I think there's always going to be a caveat of, well, if the coaching staff stays, right?
That's the
Like,
unspoken straight truth right there. 100%.
right, like if that's always going to be like the asterisk on if a kid says his recruitment is shut down. If that coaching head coach or coaching staff remains there, I think that needs to be in these NIL deals. It probably is already in NIL deals, but I think if a kid is being paid out, I think if the coaching staff leaves, I feel like he has the right to change schools, and there should be some kind of legal jargon of some sort that says either they can keep the money or they have to return the money, or or the new school has to continue that NIL deal. I don't know. Like you said, I'm not a lawyer. We're not lawyers here or agents. So we don't really know exactly kind of how that works, but you got to imagine that has to be kind of in the language for these deals nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, that's the next step. I'm not a lawyer or an agent, either of you, but we're both smart enough to know these people have to adjust. You got to put that in the contracts now. If
Yeah.
we're giving you some money up front, if you jump, that's your business. In writing, here it is. You got to give it back. At least they know up front. There can't be any ifs. You got to bring it up, not just in writing. Discuss it. We understand if the coach changes, you might want to bail, but we want to catch. Like, there's a million ways you could approach that. It may cost you a recruit or two, but sometimes that might not be about. Like in Florida's case, the people that were like they knew there was a chance Billy was done this year.
Yeah,
So
of
if they
course.
put themselves in that spot without communicating any of that, that's on UF's administration or whoever it is, or collect whatever. This is the era we're in. It is it's not the same as NFL free agency, but it's in that realm where there are legal aspects of it that you have to attain to. And it's good for the kids to learn this stuff now if they have aspirations of ever playing in the NFL. There's consequences for your actions. Enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Lastly, just because I said we were going to talk about the big three, let's talk a little bit about the Florida State class.
Oh, yeah.
And just like where this class could end up. They've already lost one recently in Tadarius Hughes, who flipped from Florida State to Syracuse. There's a lot of other possible flips here. Karan Maycock recently took an official visit to Texas. Texas has been doing well as far as, getting South Florida recruits. They've got Derek Cooper, Dia Bell, and James Johnson already South Florida recruits committed to this 2026 class. Do you anticipate any other flips from this Florida State class should the Seminoles continue on a downward spiral?
Daryl Bell or anybody else could be. All these kids are unequivocally understanding of the situation. Answer the following. This is going to be rhetorical for you, but I want people to understand this because everybody that's a fan, generally like Miami, they root for the U, that the symbol on the polo. We get that. And even these kids have a favorite, Florida, Miami, Florida State, whatever. But as it relates to recruitments, I mean, I've seen this 100 times. Kid grows up a Miami fan, but he builds a relationship with the Florida State coach. They go to Florida State, or vice versa. So
Right.
when that coach moves away from that scenario, things change. Florida State's got a few really good recruiters. One that's, ironically, a Miami grad, Tim Harris Jr., can recruit. He's one of the reasons they got some of the South Florida guys. He was a track star at Miami.
For sure.
If he isn't there next year, you don't think that's going to impact them with some of the South Florida kids? They pick coaches, not schools. And I know fans hate that with every fiber of their being. That's how this works. For the U, for Florida State, for Tennessee, for Washington, doesn't matter. So if that staff, like if they know he's getting canned, 29th of November is final day. Florida plays or Florida hosts Florida State.
Yeah.
In 48 hours after that, we're going to know if Mike is getting canned.
Yep. For sure.
If they fire him, there's going to be 3 to 5 kids minimum for Florida State that's committed now that sign elsewhere. I think that's a conservative number because everybody builds their relationships with these coaches. They already got their second pick or whatever lined up. That's how this works because everybody has trainers and other people that help them. Like, where would you go if this coach is going to get canned or if we don't know? And if they decide to sign, you got to remember January 2nd through the 16th, if the next coach is hired and they don't like it, they transfer. It's really just like signing with another because they never even enrolled at Florida State. So it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
So one way or the other, you're not going to get the kid. Call it a recruit, call it a train. It doesn't make any difference. So I think Florida State's class, especially the South Florida kids, anybody from that group, Tadarius was one, Maycock could be another. Any of those kids would be the ones I'd watch the most. Then after that, it's just based on which assistant these kids are tied to, which guys get a stick. And there's not enough time between the end of the season. It's 4 days between signing day and the last game of the season. It's terrible.
Yeah, no.
It's terrible. Yeah. So any school that is changing coaches, look out. And by the way, is it Cameron Wilson? What's the defensive lineman? He's at Southridge and one of those schools. He's visiting Florida State this weekend. But last week, he applauded.
Second time this season, too.
Yeah, he applauded when Tadarius committed to Syracuse.
Right.
Because Cam's committed to Syracuse. And he's going to visit Florida State.
Yeah.
That just shows you how wild South Florida recruiting could be. There's no predictability there.
There isn't. That is an interesting one to watch, Cameron Wilson. He says all the right things about Syracuse, but his actions tell you, like, okay, well, because from what I understand, he visited UCF last week, and now Florida State this week. So I'm not. Those are two teams that have stayed in the race for him the entire time. And it's not like both of those teams have ever gone away in its recruitment. So we'll see how that shakes out for sure. I think it definitely depends on, where FSU goes as far as coaching. You telling me that there's only 4 days after the regular season to sign day makes me really nervous. I feel like, oh my God, those 4 days are going to be crazy for me. My head is going to be spinning for sure.
You have no chance.
Yeah. Spinning out of control. Just thinking about that. But I will say from this Florida State class, I do feel like a couple of guys will stay with the class no matter what. And it could be because of that, hush hush deal that they may have with said school. And I think Isaiah Williams is a player, even though he's flipped about 17 times already. I feel like he is a player that actually will stay with the Seminoles at this point. I think Ephraim White out of Vero Beach, I spoke to him recently. I think he will stay with the Noles no matter what. It gets, I think Brandon Bennett actually from South Florida will actually stay with Florida State. Darrell Bell, that's an interesting one. I'm not sure. He did shut down his recruitment about a couple of weeks ago. So, but we already just kind of talked about like how that really doesn't mean too much if the coach departs. Jason Lopez, though.
Oh, because he's a hooper too. They got a really good basketball class at FSU that he's part of.
They do.
Where would he go if it's
the most intriguing one for me?
Where would Lopez go if it wasn't FSU? Because Miami's got Spafford.
Right. You would think Miami would be the place, but I think Lopez really does want to hoop. And it doesn't seem like there's a place for him to hoop for Miami. Jay Lucas over there seems like he has his guys that he wants, and Lopez hasn't been one of those guys that he has showed tremendous amount of interest in. And but NC State, I think, is a team to possibly watch here. They've been in the race the entire time for Lopez. And if there's any team besides Miami, which, like I said, I'm not so sure about, I think NC State could be the player here. Any of these other players here on this list is anybody's guess at this point. Everybody would love a Chauncey Kennan, of course. Ernest Rankings is a player I actually love. When you watch the tape, it's outstanding. Um, Xavier Tiller, I think, is a player that will probably flip as well. I think he's been showing some interest in different places. So,
Uh,
so
Tiller's always been very loose with whatever was going on. That's not surprising.
yeah, yeah. So those are the guys for me. I mean, we'll see. Do you think Norvell keeps his job or not?
Let me just say it this way. As a guy that also runs the Locked On Seminoles podcast, the rant that I go on when they announce that will be world changing and epic.
So I'm guessing like you thought this should happen a long time ago then.
Did you see 2-10?
I did. I did. I was shocked that he kept his job. To be honest, I'm shocked that both Billy Napier and Mike Norvell kept their jobs for this season. And if
That's
if
it.
Mike Norvell doesn't lead this team to a bowl game, then I guarantee he's gone. I do. If they beat Florida, you know, even though Florida is a total dumpster fire right now, you mentioned them getting blown out by
Oh
Kentucky.
my God, they're bad. They don't care. They quit. They flat quit against UK.
Yeah, that's why I'm probably gonna put a little money on Ole Miss this weekend because I don't think Florida's really
They're
gonna
not
put up a
invested.
fight at all here. And then I think Lane Kiffin is trying to show what he can do for his maybe potential future job against those in front of the Gator fans and boosters. So I feel like Ole Miss is gonna run run away with that one. But yeah, Norvell. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's inevitable for him to be fired here. What's your thoughts on replacing him though? Real
This is
quick
what I said on
before
Locked.
we end it.
Yeah, this is what I said on Locked On Seminoles. I know fans won't like this at FSU, but there is no perfect. If they were the only team looking for a coach, and obviously it's as far away from that as possible, I said, name me the guy that has all of the following: natural pedigree as a head coach at the P4 level, at winning and being a natural recruiter. There is no Jimbo Fisher out there or somebody that has ties
He
to the South.
he is out there though, right?
Well, he's in the abyss. Okay, he is not an option. He's too old and tired with his ways.
I don't
It's
know. It seems like he's got an itch based on what he's been saying lately.
yeah, I've got itches too, but that doesn't mean they're going to get me paid 40 or $50 million. No, Marcus, no, that's not allowed. No, you're not allowed to talk about that. Hell no. To that end, there is no head coach that has all the ties that you'd look for. State of Florida, or maybe a guy that's been a head coach at one of the schools in Georgia. There isn't. So either you're going to end up with like a Buster Faulkner, who's the OC at Georgia Tech, he's very good, or maybe Glenn Schumann, the defense corner linebacker coach for Kirby at University of Georgia, or you go with head coach at USF or the head coach at Summerall at Tulane. But there is no P4, no doubt about it guy.
Yeah,
So Florida State fans are probably not going to be happy, but no fan base is hardly ever happy with the hire.
sure.
But it doesn't mean it doesn't work out. There's just no obvious name because people want splash for when they walk into the office the next day to talk trash. That's what it's really about.
Yeah,
But that ain't going to happen if Florida State changes coaching because there is nobody like that. So
yeah.
it still has to happen, though, like you said, because he ain't it. Bottom line.
Right. Right. All right. Great stuff from Brian Smith, of course, part of the Locked On Network. He does a great job covering Florida State and recruiting. Thanks for joining me once again, for the South Florida Recruiting Report.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. We'll see each other again, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
All right. And that's going to wrap it up for the South Florida Recruiting Report. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share this podcast where we talk recruiting for in the state of Florida. Make sure you also read my articles on three rivals. Just go to rivals.com and see all of the work that all of the analysts do when it comes to recruiting with signing day just 3 weeks away. Until the next episode.